breiten Faust an Lanzenschaft, die Zügel in der Linken, so springt des Reiches Ritterschaft und ihre Schwerter blinken. Heya, 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 und ihre Schwerter blinken. Heya, 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 und ihre Schwerter blinken.
Hello and welcome to Lex Around Electric Indy. I am Kenny, and I've been out of commission again. This time not because of technical difficulties, but because I have had to reevaluate what I am doing with this channel and what my plans are for, well, my hometown. Recent events, the coworker, my boss actually, thinking that, he was on board and finding out he was not, that he's actually just a Protestant former Catholic. He still kind of claims to be, but he's given into indifferentism. And so, as a result, I have taken consideration to a lot of the obstacles that I have run into. Up to this point, I have been on a mission to basically find as many people that want the traditional Latin Mass as possible. And get the numbers, because I think it was like 50 to 100 people is what I needed in order to basically prove that there was a need for the Latin Mass, so we could then go to the bishop and try to get the bishop to do it. If not, then the backup plan would be to go to the SSPX, which would also have the same requirements. But I've begun to realize that people, even the people that I've talked to that want the traditional Latin Mass, they do not want to do the work. They don't want to stick their neck out. They don't want to risk the ire of Bishop Olson, or they don't want to risk being called schismatic. They don't want to, whatever it is that's keeping them from wanting to get their hands dirty. And so I'm switching my tactic to purely emphasizing building traditional Catholicism in everybody's individual homes purely. Because until that happens, there's not going to be enough backing to try to get a Latin Mass here, ever. Because everybody's too comfortable just with the status quo, and they're not willing to disrupt their comfort. Or in the case of, my coworker, they think that the reason I'm wanting the Latin Mass is because that's my own personal spirituality, and that this is the desired spirituality of several Catholics, and so yes, we should totally go for that. And then he has his own personal spirituality, and that of course is a problem. because that defeats the entire purpose of what I am trying to accomplish here. And so it just comes down to this. I personally, in my life, I can do nothing that is not the will of God. And I have personally come to the conclusion, whether I'm right or I'm wrong, the conclusion that I have come to is that I just need to build traditionalism in myself, and then to promote among other Catholics here to build traditionalism within their homes. And then maybe as I promote it, and then these other people, maybe if other people, take the same route that I am, they will also promote it. And then eventually we will get the numbers, and I'm not going to have to do anything because these other people are going to be like, hey, we want to talk to the bishop and try to get the Latin Mass here. And so it looks like I will be taking the long road, which just basically means that I'm going to have to, whether I like it or not, I'm just going to have to drive 2 hours to go to Mass. Because although I'm having a little bit of trouble getting my wife totally on board with it, so I may have to do that by myself. She doesn't mind going to the Latin Mass when we go to Dallas for other reasons, but she's not on board with the idea of like every week we take a 2-hour trip just to go to Mass and then come back. She's not for that. I'm totally cool with it because that's the entire purpose for me. Because the reason why we want the Latin Mass is we want to properly worship God, because we understand that there is a proper worship of God, and that the Novus Ordo is just Protestantized Catholicism. Still valid. So yes, if that's the only thing you have available, you just cannot get to a Mass, and you just, for the sake of fulfilling your Sunday obligation, you just got to go to Mass, fine, go to a Novus Ordo. But for me, it's getting to the point where it's really starting to affect me personally, spiritually, continuing with the Novus Ordo. And in a very negative way, because it just feels like it's a battle all the time. Because I'm just trying to be Catholic. And, you get the crazy boomer lady that tries to tell me that, there's multiple ways to worship God. And it's like, that right there is the problem. We have grown as a society to be Protestantized. We think that there are multiple ways to worship God, which eventually leads to there are multiple ways to view God. And that is just a massive issue. And me personally, I'm just tired of the fight with these people. I'm tired of feeling like the only one that wants to fix this. I'm tired of feeling like I'm the only one that sees the Novus Ordo as a real problem. Because it is. Again, I'm not disputing the validity of the Novus Ordo, with exception of what I've said in previous videos about valid matter. it's just so tiring. And so I am switching gears on this, and I am switching to 100%. I am going to be as traditional as possible within my household. And I am going to focus 100% on my house. And I am going to encourage others to build up tradition in their houses. And if they don't bite, then that's on them. And that's just the way it's going to have to be. I mean, it was always that way, even with the other way I was trying to do it, trying to just recruit and, bring up the numbers. But it's gotten to a point where I have come to realize that the problems are so deep and people are so entrenched in false obedience, in comfort, in indifferentism, in the idea that, oh, well, it's valid, so it's good enough. And so I am just not able by myself to make this happen, because I literally have no help here. And I can't go to my priest here because every time I've tried to talk about traditional stuff with him, I mean, other than I've told him that I do go to the Latin Mass whenever I can, and I had him bless my missal, which was the pre-55 missal, and I explained to him what it was. He said that was cool, interesting, and he liked it, whatever. But then whenever it comes to actually doing traditional things, he's just not helpful. None of the priests here are. Well, I can't say none of the priests because there's a few priests that I haven't even tried to talk to yet, but maybe I should give them a try. So, short version, I'm just switching gears. I haven't made a video in a while because I have had to do some serious thinking. I kind of feel like I fell off the wagon there for a little bit because of what had happened previously. And I was a little depressed, I'm not going to lie, because I had very high hopes. I was finding a lot of people who said that they loved the Latin Mass, they wanted the Latin Mass, or that they were at least open to it, and thought that the Latin Mass was a good thing and we should have it. But then when it came down to actually doing something about it, none of them wanted to do it. Now, some of them, and perhaps those people that I'm referring to are listening, some of them I don't blame, just because they're busy. They've got jobs, they've got kids, family, whatever, that makes it difficult for them to put the time and the money, resources, and whatever into doing this kind of thing. Those people I do not blame. So, anybody who is listening to this, pray for my strength on this matter, because I definitely need it. And so I guess I'll end this video with, a call to tradition. Just do what you can in your own personal lives to bring tradition up in your own households. And then set the example to your fellow Catholics. Those of you who are here in Wichita Falls. I mean, obviously, there's going to be some people that are not here in Wichita Falls. that are going to listen to this video. But anybody who is in Wichita Falls, start learning the traditional practices of the Catholic Church before the Second Vatican Council. Just basically look at everything before the Second Vatican Council and ignore the Second Vatican Council when you do that. Now, I'm not telling you to take the position that the Second Vatican Council is somehow invalid. I do not take that position. I do have a position on that, but it is not appropriate for me to go over those here because that is not the point of what I'm trying to do. There are plenty of other places you can go to get perspectives similar to or close to mine. So read Bellarmine, read the other saints, read the old catechisms, Catechism of the Council of Trent, the Baltimore Catechism. Those are my top two favorites as far as catechisms go, because those are very straight, direct to the point. Baltimore Catechism is even better. I realize it is for, kids through high school, but that's part of what makes it good, because it gives you the tradition very straightforward. The fourth book is best, obviously, if you're an adult, simply because it does get a little bit more in depth, but it does still keep it simple enough for even guys like me who really hate reading. I cannot stand reading, but I do make myself do it, and I will admit that reading that catechism for me was actually, it was easy. It wasn't difficult. It was easy to understand, and it was very straightforward. Catechism of the Council of Trent, unfortunately, the copy that I've got is just somebody that, copied it on a computer and then reprinted the thing. So I do need to get a better copy of it that'll be a little bit easier to read, but it's still good, even with the poor quality of the one I have. Pray your rosary every single day. Do not let that up under any circumstances. Obviously, there will be days that you miss it because of whatever, but do your best to just let there be no excuse for why you didn't pray your rosary. And if you can, pray all 15 decades. Get the brown scapular if you're not already wearing it. Try to get enrolled. Do the first Fridays and first Saturdays, which, by the way, is very difficult. Even I have never completed it because things come up. You miss one, which means you have to start all over again. And so just do your best. I almost said the cliche, do your best and God will do the rest. But yeah, so this video is just clarifying where my position is now since that last video, because I know that I rambled on, and it probably didn't. I have not listened to it because I know that I was rambling and that a lot of it may have been very scatterbrained. I'm trying not to be scatterbrained here because I am doing this video, just off the top of my head. I don't have a script this time. So keep the faith, learn the tradition, get to a Latin Mass if you can, and try to bring as many Novus Ordo Catholics to tradition as possible. and then start trying to convert your Protestant friends. But before we can convert the Protestants, we have to remind Catholics that they're Catholic. We have to start reminding them what the tradition actually is and not the garbage that they get at the Novus Ordo. All right, well, that's all I have for now. Until next time, Deus Vult.